Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. This week we'll chat with Jessica Gnad, who is leading the K-State 105 program. We'll also have features from Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Grain Sorghum, along with a weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinon. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agricultural news, agricultural loan demand increased in 2023, and agricultural lending by U.S. farm banks grew 6.7% to $110 billion. The American Bankers Association's annual Farm Bank Performance Report credits the elevated production costs along with commodity price volatility and a return to pre-COVID levels of direct government payments. The ABA does say that farm banks continued to enjoy solid performance in 2023 with robust loan growth and historically low delinquency rates. In the release, they said moving forward, the agriculture sector will continue to face challenges due to monetary policy actions and targeting persistent inflation in the U.S., as well as reduced federal support. Despite the challenges, farm banks maintain a strong asset quality and consistent growth in high-quality capital, and they do remain well-positioned to continue serving the needs of their customers along with their communities. The report also showed that farm banks are major sources of credit for small farmers. Last year, 98.1% of farm banks were profitable. Demand for soybean oil as a feedstock in the production of renewable diesel is on the rise as the U.S. aims to increase the adoption of cleaner burning fuels. Renewable diesel is the preferred replacement for things like traditional diesel, and the U.S. production is predicted to increase sharply in the years ahead. Now, to meet the growing demand for soybean oil, U.S. processors are ramping up their production capacity. Now, it's expected to increase by 23% over the next 3 years. Now, while processors have benefited from the record high profit margins in recent years, those margins will likely moderate a bit. A new report out from CoBank says multiple years of record margins have left processors prepared to weather the inevitable margin downturn. But overbuilding U.S. crush capacity combined with sustained levels of low processing margins, well, that could threaten the viability of some of the new high-cost plants. CoBank report says the new crush plants built at higher costs and interest rates will have much higher break-even costs than those earlier ones. And Jake Panbaker of Washington, the new chair of the Kansas Beef Council's Executive Committee. He assumed the position earlier this month when they gathered for a meeting. After serving as vice chair the last 2 years, he now is chair. Ty Breeden from Quinter elected the vice chair, and Randy Debler of Alma remains on the officer team as now the immediate past chair. These three will lead the executive committee over the next 2 years. The KBC Executive Committee is comprised of cattlemen and women from all over the state who then represent all sectors of the beef industry. These volunteer leaders determine how checkoff dollars received by the Beef Council are used to grow beef demand within Kansas and all across the U.S., even around the world. We'll have more coming up in just a moment on the Kansas Ag Report.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And we're joined now by Jessica Gnad, who is Executive Director of K-State 105. We caught up with her at the Kansas Farm Bureau annual meeting. Well, Jessica, boy, it's been a while since it was announced, then worked on, and now you've had a few months to get things underway. So give us the update. What's going on now with K-State 105?
Oh, fantastic. Yes, we are. We're actually 105 days in. Tomorrow's our 105th day being on the job and getting things just really pushed through the gate. So yes, K-State 105 is alive. And we've worked on partnering up. We've worked on putting together some of our strategic statewide partnerships, working with Network Kansas. We're deploying some of our initiatives, Northwest Kansas with the Innovation Center. We're doing some work with Go Topeka. We've announced some partnerships with Fort Hays State University, and there's going to be a lot more coming down the pipe.
So let's talk a little bit about K-State 105. The 105, 105 counties in Kansas, K-State because of extension, kind of a natural way to piece all these together, but it is a way to build on maybe some of the things already out there in some of these areas.
Oh, absolutely. K-State 105 is about building capabilities and collaboration in a way that's never been done before. So you're exactly right. The ways in which we're going to deploy our mission could be through research and extension. We know that research and extension is already in all 105 counties in Kansas, but as we see uneven economic growth across the state of Kansas, and you're no stranger to that, from east to west, from north to south, we know that we need to continue to address the lens in which we're looking at our communities. And so K-State 105 has that ability to kind of put some of the pieces together in ways that one particular group, might not be able to have the full breadth.
And I know there are issues, obviously, economic development, growing jobs. I know President Linton, when he came out and said, we have goals to reach certain jobs, create jobs.
That's
through
correct.
K-State 105 is a big part of that. Maybe somebody has expertise in housing, childcare, or entrepreneurship. You're kind of the 105 is kind of the conduit for all
That's
this.
correct.
Is that correct?
That's the perfect way to think about it. So as the university, through our strategic plan and our economic prosperity plan, the university is looking at helping to create 3,000 new jobs and have a $3 billion economic impact by 2030. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that in several different ways. We're going to do that with some of our biosecurity, biodefense. We're going to be looking at some of our different ag analytics and our different issues that we can do in helping promote animal health and some of our prime businesses and industries in the state of Kansas. But the action and the engine is K-State 105. That's how we deploy our mission throughout the state of Kansas.
Jessica Gnad, who is the Executive Director for K-State 105, is joining us. We're going to take a quick break, come back and talk about maybe what's in the future as this thing gets all rolling. We'll do that in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And Jessica Gnad, who is the Executive Director for K-State 105, is joining us. And we've talked a little bit about kind of an update of where things are, just kind of 105 days or so already. So let's talk about kind of moving forward. And as we look at, we're all kind of learning more about K-State 105. And there's a lot of things, a lot of needs that the state has, a lot of these communities have. And so Talk about that role then that K-State 105 plays as everybody's trying to find solutions to those big challenges.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. K-State 105 has the ability to come in and be a backbone organization for capabilities that already exist. We acknowledge that there are fantastic eco-devo groups, there's other nonprofits, universities, and colleges, but K-State, through our land grant mission, really has the ability to provide that base. And so we were talking during the break a little bit about what does it mean to be a backbone organization? And the way that we're thinking about this is each community has their own specific sets of issues and fantastic things that are happening in that community, and it might look different next door. What K-State 105 has the ability to do is to bring in partnerships in a way that hasn't been done before. Partner up, collaborate, and have place-based, maybe not necessarily the solution, but a suite of solutions and a suite of capabilities that communities can access. And so that's the way we're thinking about it right now. We just did our first quarterly poll of data of what our partners do, what the university does, what research and extension does. And all that is a picture. It's a snapshot of where we're at. And we're learning some really fantastic things about what industries are asking for help, what geographies are asking for help. And we're finding that, hey, we might have this capability already. And it's a simple connection. It's a simple collaboration to kind of connect the dots and really build that velocity.
So as we learn more, I would guess there's the website that people can kind of see as things are added, some of those partners, some of those things that are available, because maybe communities are watching and saying, hey, this sounds like something, all we need is maybe a few questions answered to find the right people. And that's, in a nutshell, what's going to happen. We're not necessarily recreating a bunch of new wheels, Jessica, right?
That's correct. That's correct. We're layering and stacking operations just like you would, in your farming operation. We're stacking that level of different ways in which we can succeed. So the best way to get a hold of us is ksu.edu/105. But one thing that I can announce is at the beginning of next year, we're going to be standing up a website called All Things Kansas. And we have had several partnerships formed that will build a website that will have a mapping capability. So you could be looking at a particular county and at a particular town, and you want to see what are all of the workforce issues that this community has. So we're taking some open census data and other public information, and we're just going to put this in one place so that Kansans, political leaders, civic leaders have the ability to really pulse their community in a way that has never been done before. So K-State 105 is standing up a project. It's going to be called All Things Kansas.
All right, sounds good. All things. Speaking of All Things Kansas, before we let them go, now, even though we're all wearing purple with K-State 105, but you also are partnering with other institutions of higher learning in all this as well.
Absolutely. We've had great support by the Kansas Board of Regents for thinking about a university and their role in economic prosperity. And so we have already created some partnerships with Fort Hays State University through the Innovation Center, and we are looking at some of our other higher ed partners who may have expertise in things that K-State doesn't, like healthcare, mental health support and abilities to be able to push that content to all 105 counties across the state of Kansas. So very exciting times.
All right, Jessica, thanks. Good to catch up with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jessica Gnad, who is the Executive Director of K-State 105, has joined us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Anything I can help you locate today?
Yeah, I'm looking for some grass seed, but I can never figure out which type to buy.
At Premier Farm at Home, you can pick your grass seed out of a field instead of off a shelf.
Really? You can do that?
At Premier, you can.
That'd be great.
Let me take you to our plots.
Everyone has lawn problems. At Premier Farm and Home, we see it as an opportunity to earn your trust.
This is so helpful.
Only place in the Midwest.
With each problem we help you solve, you'll gain confidence and find that no one can take care of your lawn like you can.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
One cannot discuss soybeans and the global market without bringing Brazil into the picture. In fact, Brazil's major agricultural growth over 4 decades provides a lot to talk about in terms of cropping systems, infrastructure, market share, and exports. Climate marks a key difference between U.S. crop seasons and those in Brazil. The South American country experiences pronounced rainy and dry seasons, and the tropical climate eliminates the likelihood of snow or freezes, while the ongoing warmth exacerbates pest problems and leads to repeated costly fungicide and pesticide applications. It also allows operations to fit multiple crop seasons into one calendar year. The government does enlist planting moratoriums to combat crop diseases. There are 3 distinct corn crops in Brazil. The second, Safrinha, or Little Harvest, is key because it now accounts for 77% of the total corn production. It's a low-yielding, break-even rotational crop that's intended to boost production of soybeans, the primary cash crop. Focusing on soybeans prompted an exponential 500% growth of Brazilian soybean production, according to Matthew Cruz of Comstock Investments. Growth occurred despite limited financing and under-established loan systems, with producers paying out of pocket to expand. In a situation many Kansas growers are familiar with, Brazil growers recently experienced a down year for soybean production due to arduous weather conditions. Scott Girl, chief economist for the American Soybean Association, said at Commodity Classic earlier this month that while the Brazilian crop is smaller than expected, it won't be far behind recent record years, leaving Brazil as the top soybean producing country. Significant growth in crop production turns an eye to Brazil's infrastructure and technology, which has seen paralleled improvement while still leaving great potential. It is now common to find bigger, newer, high-tech equipment in the fields, but inadequate roadways and railways hinder movement of the increased crop quantity. Producers from far inland regions must immediately sell their crops because of inability to store grain on their operations. This leads to financial pressure and low returns, according to Scott Girl. Brazil is a commodity net exporter and sends most of its soybean exports to China. As Brazil's role in the global agricultural market develops, the U.S. continues monitoring how that impacts pricing and market volatility for U.S. growers. Hear more from these experts mentioned in this report through ASA's Economist Angle or the Farm Futures publication from Farm Progress.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
At the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Conservation, we are focused on the health and vitality of natural resources of the state, including Kansas grasslands, which are declining due to the spread of woody plants like eastern red cedar. What were once intact and treeless grasslands are now suffering from woody plant encroachment, which is among the greatest threats to the grasslands in the Great Plains. Without changes in management, record losses in rangeland production are expected to continue. One of the biggest threats to rangeland is red cedar trees, which were first introduced to Kansas as a windbreak to control soil erosion. Now they're choking out the prairie. The Great Plains Grassland Extension Partnership estimates that 22.4 million tons of rangeland production are lost annually in the Great Plains to woody encroachment, with 1.5 million lost in Kansas. Woody species, including the red cedars, take precious water from the soil away from grasses. Grazing acreage for livestock is lost. Loss of wildlife habitat, a consequence of woody encroachment, means that wildlife move to where they can find available food. Conservationists across the region are working to slow the growth. The KDA Division of Conservation works with conservation districts across the state to offer education, burn workshops, and cost share for management practices. An immature tree can be killed by fire management, but a mature tree over 6 years old takes more. Mechanical and chemical treatments are necessary on older trees to manage woody encroachment. It is critical that landowners, wildlife enthusiasts, homeowners, and others work with conservationists to help stop the spread of the red cedar and other woody species. Without grassland management, record losses in rangeland production are expected to continue. Thanks for doing your part to help protect the rangelands of Kansas.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
It's now time for the Kansas Sorghum Update, brought to you by the Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission. Today, we're providing sorghum leaders with information regarding the nomination process for the United Sorghum Checkoff Board of Directors and other opportunities to become involved with our organization with a new series of sorghum-centered events happening later this year. The USDA is currently seeking nominees to succeed 2 vacancies in Kansas for the United Sorghum Checkoff Board of Directors. The Checkoff Board is comprised of 13 sorghum producers, including 5 seats for the largest sorghum-producing state, 3 for the second largest, 1 for the third largest, and 4 at-large national positions. Sorghum producers within the United States who own or share the ownership and risk of loss in sorghum production are eligible for a nomination to the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture for appointment. Nominations are due to the USDA on May 3rd, 2024. For more information, you can visit sorghumcheckoff.com or visit our website as well by visiting ksgrainsorghum.org to express interest. The Commission is also excited to announce its latest collaboration with K-State that will launch this summer. The Sorghum Connection series will address best agronomic practices in order to prevent diseases and other obstacles through a series of field days and producer-led panels. Be sure to stay tuned for more information as details develop. We'll be sure to keep you updated via our social media, digital newsletter, and of course, our website. Thank you, and stay tuned for next time.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Washington rancher Jake Panbacker is the new Kansas Beef Council Executive Committee Chair. He assumed the position during the group's most recent meeting after serving as vice chair for the past 2 years. Ty Breeden from Quinter was elected as vice chair. Panbacker works alongside his father on their farming and ranching operation. He is the 5th generation to live and work on the family land. Panbacker has served on the Kansas Beef Council Executive Committee since 2017 and holds a position on the Cattlemen's Beef Board Domestic Marketing Committee as a member of the Federation of State Beef Councils. He and his wife Lindsay have 2 children. Ty Breeden and his wife Jamie also are the 5th generation to operate their family cow-calf and farming operation in western Kansas. He was appointed to the Kansas Beef Council Executive Committee 3 years ago and serves on the Cattlemen's Beef Board Safety and Product Innovation Committee for the Federation of State Beef Councils. He and Jamie have 2 daughters. The Kansas Beef Council Executive Committee is comprised of cattlemen and women from across the state who represent all sectors of the beef industry. These volunteer leaders determine how checkoff dollars received by the Beef Council are used to grow beef demand within Kansas, across the U.S., and around the world.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Good
Good morning. This is Jacob Herzog with Pinon Risk Management. Now, we are 1 week after the March 28th USDA report. I'm sure we've all heard the numbers in one form or another by now. There's a lot of debate over the millions of missing acres that have come out of the total principal crop acres. Now, if this is true, then we'd be planting the least amount of primary crop acres since 2010. Knee-jerk reactions are, these acres are going to show up in the June report in some form or another, which they may. If there's any specific report, that would probably be the one. On the other hand, statistically speaking, most of the time going back to 2000, the combined total corn and soybean acres from March intentions to the final estimate have fallen within 2% of the initial guess, 18 of the last 23 times, and have missed the mark by more than 2% in either direction, the remaining 5 times. And of course, between now and then, we'll be debating a whole lot more than just acres, like the prospect of meeting USDA's expectations of trendline yield at 181 and 51 respectively, which if we do meet, will sit us with significant ending stocks. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm bearish at this point, but if weather goes well in May, June, and July, it won't be looking good. Outside of last week's USDA report, planting conditions look good across the country. I'm sure some guys are more dry than they'd probably like, but key areas out east just got decent rain last week and are rearing to get planting very soon. This week's exports were pretty poor, but was balanced out by decent numbers in ethanol. Now, I know a lot of talking heads emphasize the need for a plan year-round, but this is really the time of the year rubber meets the road. If you would like to talk with somebody about a plan, you can reach us at 888-452-8751. I'm Jacob Herzog with Pinon Risk Management.
That'll do it for our program this week. Thank you so much for watching. You can be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or our social media pages. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week on the Kansas Ag Report.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.